It was a slow news day, like one of those days where you feel like the world is standing still and the only sound that can be heard is the hum of the refrigerator. You know, the kind of days where you spend more time clipping coupons than writing articles. It was on a day like this that I got the call that would change everything. My editor, Tom, whose name, by the way, was not actually Tom, but Thomas Jefferson Parker III, which I always thought was an unnecessarily long name for someone so short. In any case, Tom called me into his office, a cramped, poorly ventilated box filled with the ghosts of missed deadlines and the faint smell of stale coffee. "Get your coat," he said without looking up from his computer. "We have a murder." The victim was Evan Pierce, a local high school senior and star quarterback. The location, Pierce Manor, the sprawling, somewhat creepy estate at the end of Mockingbird Lane. The alleged weapon, a tire iron. When I arrived at the house, the place looked like a mausoleum. Black drapes hung over the windows. The front door was flanked by two stone gargoyles, and the whole place looked like it belonged in a horror movie. I rang the bell and waited. A gaunt, gray-haired man finally opened the door. "Mr. Pierce," I asked, extending my hand. He stared at it for a moment before seeming to realize what I wanted. He reluctantly shook it. His grip was surprisingly firm. Come in," he said, stepping aside to let me enter. The living room was dimly lit, almost as if the family were trying to avoid using electricity. Mr. Pierce led me to a set of stairs at the far end of the room. "Go up there," he said, his voice raspy, "and you will see what you came for." And indeed, when I reached the second-floor landing, I saw the body of Evan lying on the floor directly in front of me. He was covered with a sheet, but I could see his arms and legs protruding from it, along with his helmet, which had somehow ended up on his knees. It was a gruesome sight, but Evan looked peaceful. I couldn't help but notice that his mouth was slightly open as if he were about to say something. Mr. Pierce cleared his throat behind me. "Do you want to ask me any questions?" "Yes," I said. "Did you kill him?" He turned to me, his face ashen. "What? No, of course not. Why would you think that?" "Because you seemed awfully eager to show me the body," I said, my tone flat. "You didn't even wait for the police." He sighed. I don't want to hurt your feelings, detective, but the police are not coming. This is a small town. A tragedy like this has never happened here before. We don't have the resources to deal with it, so I called you." "Why?" I asked. "Because you're good, detective," he said, his eyes glistening. "They say you can solve any case, no matter how cold. Is it true?" I didn't answer. Instead, I walked over to the body and pulled back the sheet. Evan was wearing a blue and white striped shirt that read, "I love Lucy." It was a gift from his father. He had been so proud when he got it. I remembered him telling me all about it during an interview we had done together after the big game last fall. Evan had been lying on his stomach when he died. I knelt down next to him and gently rolled him onto his back. As I did, I noticed a tattoo on his chest. It was a small, faded anchor. I took my card out of my pocket and placed it on his chest. "Rest in peace, son," I said softly, more to myself than to anyone else. I spent several hours at the house interviewing family members and combing through Evan's personal belongings. I found nothing. The police eventually showed up, but they were no help. They stood around gawking like a flock of sheep until their captain shooed them out of the house and into the yard. The captain, a portly, balding man named O'Malley, approached me with a questioning look on his face. "Anything?" he asked. "Not a thing," I replied, "but I did find this." I handed him the card. O'Malley frowned as he read it. "What do you think he means by that, Harry?" "I don't know," I said. "But I'm gonna find out." I returned to the city, frustrated and confused. I threw myself into researching other cases, hoping that anything would turn up. Days turned into weeks and still nothing. Then, just as I was about to give up, I got a call from the medical examiner. Apparently, she had taken a closer look at Evan's body and discovered something I had missed. He had a small laceration on his left forearm. When I went back to the house to take another look at the crime scene, I remembered seeing a bloodstain on his arm, but I had assumed it was caused by a defensive wound. The medical examiner believed otherwise. She thought it might be a bite mark. I looked at the wound more closely. It did look like a bite mark, but whose? I tried to focus on the details, anything that might help me determine the size and shape of the person who had bitten Evan, but it was no use. The wound was too old and the skin had already started healing. Just when I was about to give up, I noticed something. There was a piece of Evan's skin still attached to the inside of his shirt cuff. If the wound was fresh enough, maybe the skin inside the cuff would still have some blood on it. I carefully peeled the shirt away from the cuff, and sure enough, there was blood. I took the cuff to the lab and had them run a test. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. When the results came back, I felt a chill go down my spine. The blood on the cuff matched Evan's DNA. This was not a bite mark. It was a brand. And whatever had branded him had also bled. Suddenly, I knew what I needed to do. I went back to the Pierce house and asked to speak to Evan's mother. She agreed to meet me at a local diner. The woman was stunningly beautiful, with long flowing red hair and porcelain skin. I could see why she had named her son after the star quarterback. She looked like she could have played the part herself. "Do you recognize this?" I asked, showing her the brand. She gasped. "What? Where did you get that?" "It was on Evan's arm," I said. "He was branded, Mrs. Pierce." "Branded?" she echoed. I don't understand." "Someone or something bit you?" I said, leaning forward. "Do you know what it looks like? How about now?" I pulled out a book and opened it to a picture of a werewolf. Her eyes widened. "That," she whispered. "But how?" "Because you're a werewolf," I said. "Mrs. Pierce, I need you to tell me everything you know." She hesitated. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," I said. "You and Evan were both bitten. He didn't have much longer to live anyway, but you still have time. You need to learn to control it." "Control what?" "Your curse," I said. "You're a werewolf, Mrs. Pierce. Your son was killed by another werewolf. The brand proved it. And now you need to tell me who did it." She burst into tears. I didn't kill him. I swear. I didn't mean to." "Then who did?" I pressed. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with fear. "He's gone," she whispered. "He left after he did it. I haven't seen him since." "Who?" "The one who cursed us," she said. "The one who turned us into monsters." I followed the trail of the werewolf that had killed Evan to an abandoned cabin in the woods. Inside, I found nothing but a tire iron covered in blood and a single sheet of paper with a strange symbol printed on it. Later, I learned that the symbol was an ancient one, a sigil of power used by a secret society of werewolf hunters. And the tire iron, well, it had belonged to Evan. I went to Mercy Hospital that afternoon to see Evan. I even remember the cold hallway, the smell of antiseptic, the way he smiled despite the morphine. But when I mentioned it later, the nurse said I never checked in. No visitor log. No camera footage. Nothing. They say I was never there, but if I wasn't with Evan, then who did I comfort? And why did he whisper thank you as I left?